please join me in welcoming Jodi Brown.
Ladies, are you as resourceful as a weed? In my backyard, I have a lovely little flower garden. However, below that flower garden, I have a thriving metropolis of weeds. In fact, I don't even think I have several weed plants. I think it's probably only 1 or 2 plants. But the way this particular weed works, and tell me if you've seen these or if you have these little devils in your yard, it goes something like this. And for every small stem that sticks out of the ground, there's at least 6 to 8 feet of roots that are going below, that are going in every which way and direction, and they spread out everywhere. In fact, they're a little bit like that mythological creature, the Hydra. If you pull that little sprout out from the top and not down at the bottom where the root is, you take off one head and 2 will grow back in its place, at least 2. And so you try to go back and weed this garden, and all I end up doing is getting more and more and more weeds. Now, we probably don't necessarily want to be a weed all of the time in our lives. But if there was one thing I would suggest, one way perhaps in which you want to be like a weed, I would say reach those within your reach. Reach those within your reach. And who is within your reach? Well, that depends on your karma connection. Who is karma? Karma could be your friend. She could be your enemy. She could even be a member of your family. In fact, karma is my brother-in-law's niece. If you were to play that game, the 6 degrees of separation that they do to find out how people are connected to Kevin Bacon. Do you guys know that game? Oh, well, I was in a movie with so-and-so who produced the movie. Yeah. Karma would be my 6th step in that connection. If it weren't for one person, I would have no idea who she was, and she would mean nothing to me. But because of my brother-in-law and sister-in-law, I have a karma in my life. Well, Karma's life has not been so full of good karma. She has a mother who wants to have many experiences in life, but who does not want her. And she is currently in jail. The 2 father figures that she has had in her life have both committed suicide. Karma has never been taught to care and has never had anyone who cared about her. Until my brother-in-law and sister-in-law came along. And in one instant, they turned her life upside down. And now Karma has a family. She has 4 siblings and more cousins than she can count. And she met most of them last year when we were at a family reunion in a cabin on a lake up in the mountains. We were at Ogden Lake, which many of you know is just outside of West Yellowstone, just past Island Park. So that's the geography lesson. Now you know where we're talking. We were there at a cabin that normally sleeps 12. We had 27 of us in one cabin for 7 days. You do the math, you do the calculations. There were 2 restrooms, 1 kitchen. It was a good time. And that is where I met Karma. And that is where Karma met her cousins. And that is where she found out that she is loved. During that week, we had the opportunity to celebrate the birthday of one of the other little cousins who was there. And as part of my family's birthday traditions, we always make birthday signs for that person and display them all over the house, talking about their qualities, their talents, the things we love about them, our personal jokes. And so we said, well, if it's a birthday, we gotta do our signs, we gotta do our signs. And so when the family was out playing, we got busy and we put our signs up all over the walls. And when the birthday girl came in, she was so excited. She saw the signs all over the walls, and that helped her with the celebration. And I was in the kitchen when Karma walked in. And she stopped dead in her tracks and she looked at all of these signs on the wall. And she said, I wish it were my birthday so someone would make a sign about me. Ladies, what would you have done had you been there? If you were me and you heard what that little girl said, what would you have done? You would do exactly what I determined to do. You would be on a mission to make Karma a sign. And so very quietly, very nicely, very gently, I stalked Karma for the next 6 days. Everywhere she was, I was just a few steps behind, casually. And I had the opportunity to witness her over and over and over again at the cabin. I watched as she grabbed out her sketchbook and started drawing comics. 10 years old, beautiful artistic ability. And then I went and looked at the comic strips. And the characters were all hunted demons who had been abandoned by their families, who were alone and who no one cared about. I watched her at other times as she met members of the family. I saw when she interacted with one of the young boys and went up and said to him, "Are you my friend?" And he looked at her and he said, "What?" She said, "Are you my friend?" And he said, "I'm your cousin. That means I'm going to be your friend forever, and you don't even have to ask." And she was blown away. And she was so excited to realize that she had people who cared about her. I saw as she would sing and dance, but it wasn't the way everyone else was dancing. It wasn't the same beats. It wasn't the same tunes. She danced to her own beat. And then I was witness to one of the most amazing things I'd ever seen. And I watched as she stood out on the dock, and all of the other cousins were playing in the lake. They were jumping in and out and splashing, and it was a beautiful day, and they were jumping on their tubes and swimming out to the buoy and doing all of the things that kids do, or adults when you're at the lake. And Karma said, "I wish I could jump in the lake." "You can. Go jump in the lake. Everyone's in the lake. It's okay. Go jump in the lake." "I can't. I don't have any confidence." Number one, what 10-year-old knows that they don't have any confidence in themselves? What kind of messages had she been getting? So again, I decided, okay, I gotta do something. "Karma, can I tell you a secret? You only have to have courage for 5 seconds. That's it. That's all it takes. And once you've had courage for 5 seconds, for the rest of your life, you'll know you can do it. That's all it takes. Are you ready?" Oh, okay. I'll try. Okay, ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I can't do it. Karma, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. You can do it. You can do it. You just need 5 seconds. Just 5 seconds. Ready? 5, 4, 3, 2. And when I got to 2, that was as far as I ever went. Because then I witnessed as Karma stepped back, ran the last 3 feet, and with everything she had in her, she threw her arms up, plugged her nose, grabbed her knees, and she jumped into the lake. And I started cheering and yelling, "Whoa, you did And she came up out of the water and went, doing good for good, or are you doing good for glory? When you are on the giving side of life, you do good for good. You do good because you love people, you love to make a difference, and you love that you can have an impact, that you're in a position of giving. And when you do good for good, you know that you have purpose. We've talked a lot about purpose today. Michelle talked about purpose and passion. Jane Ann talked about purpose. Stacy talked about purpose. There's been a lot of talk about purpose. May I propose to you my favorite definition of purpose, which comes from Angela Duckworth, who wrote the book Grit. Not grits, like in the South, but grit. Do you have grit? Do you have what it takes? Are you like that weed? Will you persevere and send up your shoots everywhere you have to in order to get a thread hold where you need? So Angela's definition of grit. Now I'm going to have grits on the mind. I'm going to have to go home, get some grits, fry up some potatoes, get some collard greens, have some dinner. Her definition of purpose is this. It is the intent to contribute to the well-being of others. Purpose is the intent to contribute to the well-being of others. So when people ask you what your purpose is it about you? No. It's about what you are going to do for someone else. And therein, you can find what you need. You can be on the giving side, and you can discover that you are gold because you have within you the ability to give something to others. The values of the Athena Award. Where did Adrienne go? Girl, I just got to say, Bell's palsy or no, you are beautiful. Okay? From one sister to another. I get you. And you represent exactly what this world needs. Beauty, strength, creativity, initiative. The desire to do good, to help your fellow being, to help your fellow women reach their leadership potential. And as much of that can be seen from the outside, there's more of it on the inside. You are on the giving side. And I thank you for it. And when you are on the giving side, it changes everything. I know this because I've been on both sides. I didn't realize there were two sides until a few years ago. I had always been on the giving side. Not just because I gave gifts of money or other things, but because I was able to do things for myself and for others. Even if I chose not to, I was able to. And then came the day when I was no longer able to. I know you've all had those moments in your life where everything changes in an instant. For me, that came when I sat across the room from a neurosurgeon who looked me in the eyes and said, Mrs. Brown, in the brain, it's all about location, location, location. And I'm sorry to say, your tumor is in a very bad location. Now, we had known something was wrong. I had been experiencing side effects and symptoms and strange phenomena in my life and in my body for quite some time. But until those words came from his mouth, I didn't have a clue of what the new reality for our lives was going to be. And just like that, I went from the giving side to the receiving side, where I was no longer the one making the dinners for the neighbors, running to pick up carpool, taking the kids to the soccer games, sitting in on the business call, writing the memos, receiving the emails, going to the meetings. All of a sudden, the tables were turned. I became a patient, and everyone around me became caregivers. And I went into the hospital for what was supposed to be 1 surgery and 5 days recovering. Now, even that was a miracle in and of itself, because the entire healthcare system that we went to the first time, AKA location man, denied me and said, "We're sorry, there is nothing we can do for you." How do you go home and tell that to your 2-year-old son? On Easter weekend. What do you say so your 10-year-old and your 7-year-old and your 4-year-old and your 2-year-old will know that everything is going to be okay, even though you have no idea if everything is going to be okay? So getting to the point of surgery was miraculous. Then I went into surgery. And the good news is, ladies, I woke up from surgery. That was a good day. And not one that was necessarily guaranteed. In fact, if I'd heard the things that were being said in the closed doors behind me, let's just say it's a good thing I didn't. Didn't hear what the doctors were saying, what my neighbors were saying. How many people thought I wouldn't come out of it? And I did. But over the course of those next days, we quickly realized that on that lovely brochure that I signed with my very own name and said, yes, we accept the risks and the potential side effects that can come with surgery. When we realized that I woke up with every single one of those bullet points, minus death and stroke, another new reality started to set in. And unlike beautiful Adrian, I don't have Bell's palsy. I have facial paralysis. I also lost the hearing in my ear. I was unable to speak very well, to smile, to chew, to talk, speak, talk, same synonyms. And one of the deadliest complications we found out that I had, far bigger deal than anything superficial, was that I had a cerebral spinal fluid leak, which means when they went in to excavate the mass from my brain, there was a hole that was left, and spinal fluid was leaking out of it. It was leaking out of my nose and dripping down the back of my throat. I could tell you what spinal fluid tastes like. Salty. Like Powerade with no flavor. I still can't drink that stuff. Ugh. Too many bad memories. And so even though we went into the hospital hoping and believing and knowing that a miracle was possible, we had no idea what was to come. So that plan for one day surgery, and 5 days recovering turned into 35 days in neurocritical care, 3 brain surgeries, and I have since had 9 reconstructive surgeries, and I am full of all sorts of beautiful mechanical devices. I believe I am very close. I'm not sure what the definition is, but if you Google what is required to become the bionic woman, I bet you I am so close. I could at least be on the list to try and make it. I have a mechanical spring implanted in my eyelid that helps me blink. Almost. I'm so close on really good days. I have a facial therapist, did you know there was such a thing, who helps me learn how to try to use the muscles and the nerves that are in my face. And just by note, they told me 6 years ago to stop hoping for progress, that nothing more was ever going to come. Sitting in Jane Ann's class today, she was talking about the importance of mentors. And one of the things she said is, however, you don't have to necessarily pay a mentor. It can be someone that you just observe. It can be someone, a leader that you admire. It can be someone that you're watching, a teacher, a speaker, someone that you see. And I made a note to myself and thought, you need to find those mentors. But you also need to understand when you need to listen to the experts and when you should not. Because you know what? They don't know the possibilities that are within you. They may not know that you are gold, but you do. You do. And I have made progress, and I do have muscle coming back, and I can use my face. And 6 months ago, the doctor said, you'll never get anything more. I mean, they said that 6 years ago. Well, 6 months ago, I woke up and had this electric zinging sensation in my face. Now, keep in mind, I hadn't felt much of that side of my face for a long time, so I thought, what in the world is going on? It was 6 o'clock in the morning. I grabbed my phone, turned it around, and took a video so I could see what was happening. And you know what I saw? This. Watch closely. Stare at me. Look me in the eyes. You ready? Ready? Thank you. Okay, that is what? That is one tiny little muscle. There are 49 muscles on each side of your face. That's one. But you know what? It woke up. Because I didn't listen to what they said. And we kept trying, and we kept trying, and we kept trying, and doing the exercises. I have run so many marathons with my face, I can't even tell you. Now, I'm not like Michelle where you run them like in actual person, but I run them with my face, and I think that's a pretty good second, right? She's got me covered on this one. It's good enough. No one else knows what you are capable of. No one else but you. And sometimes we don't even believe that about ourselves. So what do you do if you're not sure? What do you do if you haven't quite discovered all of those things about yourself yet? Well, let me make a couple of recommendations. Number one, Michelle may hate me for it. I'm going to say, don't go out and run. I want you to sit. Did you hear that? Jodi said it's okay. Sit. Because sit is self-improvement time. And when you spend a little bit of time sitting, you are working on yourself. You are investing in the gold within you. You are growing it. You are multiplying it. You are gaining interest. You are making yourself relevant. You are keeping up with the things that are going on. You are helping your brain to stay healthy. And you are doing good for you. So go ahead and run if you want to run. But also, take time to sit. Another one, I want you to turn to your neighbors right now. Do you love when people make you do this on the spot? Turn to your neighbors, whether you know them or not. And don't ask them. I just want them to tell you, Belinda, okay, there's a little threesome over here. You guys are gonna have to tell each, yes. You can both turn that way and then both turn back the other way. But I want you to look at your neighbor right now and tell her one thing that you admire about her. Right now, go. Okay, ladies, now that I've given you a good subject to talk about, you could probably go on for a long time. But did any of you have a difficult time finding something that you admire about the person sitting next to you, even if you didn't know them? I happen to know that these three ladies back here just met. And yet I saw Celeste, raise your hand, Celeste. I saw Celeste immediately turn to Belinda. As soon as I said go, she turned and started saying something. I don't know what she said, but I know that in the 20, 30 minutes that she's been sitting there, she has already found something that she admires about the person next to her. What does that tell you? Sometimes we are slow to see it within ourselves. Sometimes we are blinded. So pass the paper. Pass the paper to your neighbor. Let them know. Let them know what you see in them. That's one of the great ways that you can find out what some of your strengths are, what some of your golden elements are. Another way is what has been deemed the Ono Circle. Toyota's great lean manufacturing guru, Taiichi Ono. I know that you all know his name. It just rolls off the tongue. You're all in manufacturing, right? You like to work at the Toyota plant, so I know you're all familiar with him. He used to go into an assembly plant, manufacturing cars. Okay, so let's keep this in perspective. And he would go in, he would take a piece of chalk. He would lean over and he would draw an 8-foot circle. And in that 8-foot circle, he would put 2 footprints. And in those 2 footprints, he would stand. And he would stay in that spot. Yes, he would move around a little bit, or otherwise his knees would lock up and he'd probably pass out, and we don't need any of that. But he would stand in that circle for 8 hours and observe the things that were going on around him. And though in the beginning he admitted that he often didn't see anything, the longer he stood there, the more he saw. The more things that came to him. And so he would see people who were on an assembly line, who would get their part at the end of the assembly line, and they would put it in the box, and then they would take all of the scraps, and they would walk 15 feet, put the scraps in the garbage, and they would walk back, pick up the part as it came down the assembly line, put it into the box, grab the scraps. They would walk 15 feet across, put the scraps into the garbage. What did he see? He saw waste. But waste is not all that he saw. He also started to notice the good things. He started to notice the innovation. He started to see things that had always been there, but which he had never seen because he hadn't looked close enough to uncover them. Ladies, may I recommend that you spend some serious sit time in the next few days, and that as part of that sit time, you draw a circle around yourselves. And you take a deep look. And I guarantee that what you will find is purpose. And as you discover how you can best help the world, as you discover how far you can reach in your karma steps, you will also discover your true authentic self. And when you are authentic, you are gold. So be you and never try to be anyone else. Thank you.
Thank you, Jodi. We love you. You're awesome. We do have a gift for you. It's really awkward to have to bend over on this stage wearing a skirt. But so don't look. Bend over like a granny. That's how I bowl and that's how I play basketball. Okay. Jodi, thank you.
Thank
so
you.
very much. Here's a card for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We love you. Wow.